improve my conscious contact. There's 4 basic ideas in the 11th step: instinct, inspiration, intuition, and insight. The body, instinct. The spirit, inspiration. The mind, intuition. All of it is insight. All of it is what we call a vital sixth sense. He's going to talk about, I don't think we're going to have time to get deep into the 11th step. We're going to do some of it tomorrow, but he uses the word inspiration 3 or 4 times in the 11th step. So it's important to understand that idea. So I start to understand these ideas, and when people say they're powerless over everything, I don't believe that. I believe that we will become empowered in our attitude, empowered in wisdom. So that triangle, again, finalizing that, the steps bring me wisdom. The fellowship where 2 or more are gathered bring me power. And service brings me love. So I get wisdom, power, and love by living in a circle and a triangle. To be seated in the center of that. I look at that circle and a triangle that we talked about earlier as a power switch. It is a power switch upon which, if I plug into it consistently over a period of time, and if you're new here, part of the word spiritual is ritual. Take the word apart, spiritual. Part of that word is ritual. And a lot of these things that we ask people to do over a period of time bring about a change in perception. Go to meetings, work steps, help others. It's right there. Working steps is the recovery. Going to meetings is the unity. Helping others is service. Very, very simple way of saying the same thing over and over. And I don't care if it's redundant. So is brushing your teeth. The redundancy of this. And I heard a comedian the other day, we were in a men's group, and the guy goes, I've been reading the same book for 40 years. And then he makes fun of himself. He goes, what kind of idiot reads the same book for 40 years? But the fact is, this book is a game plan for life. It is a set of spiritual principles that, for some reason, are timeless with us. Do I consistently need to be part of a community? Absolutely. There's a joke in AA that my solutions are worse than my problems. I treat loneliness with isolation. Sound familiar? I treat anxiety with caffeine. I treat depression with country western music. So I need guidance. I need guidance. This is spiritual guidance. So when we talk about this book, we talk about a set of principles, and people will say, it's old. It's 1939. But these fundamental ideas are as old as humanity. A lot of these come from the ancient spiritual laws. Ancient spiritual laws. And the body, its function is to act. The mind to think. What I didn't understand is the spirit's function. The spirit has a function. And what that is will. And like my friend Herb says, my will always choose me. So the bigger part of alcoholism is to work on this spirit. And what it's going to say later in the book is when I straighten out spiritually, only then do I straighten out mentally and physically. That's why last night when I talked about the map, I'm great at getting the girl, the job, the house, and the car. I can do that all in 90 days. And every time I'm back in a rehab. I'm back in a jail cell. I know how to lease it all. I can get it, in a weekend. So, that was what I learned to do. But what we're suggesting here, if you're new, is that if you can take the time to rebuild the man, 1 through 3 with God, 4 through 7 with self through inventory, 8 and 9 with others through amends, and then to maintain, develop, and grow those 3 relationships, what happens is your world will completely change. The lens that you see the world through will actually change. So in 1 through 3, I give it up. 4 through 7, I clean it up. 8 and 9, I make it up. 10, 11, and 12, I keep it up. And as a result of those ideas, I'm able to navigate around the drama. I'm able to match calamity with serenity. So back to what we're reading here. There's a thing called he talks about here in the doctor's opinion, when he actually writes the doctor's opinion, on the second paragraph of the doctor's opinion. He says at the top of it, it says the subject presented in this book seems to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcoholic addiction. Am I afflicted with alcoholic addiction? Again, I go right back to the question. Okay? Going further down here, he actually talks about treatment. I don't want to disparage treatment too much because, I know that Dave's recording back there. But this is what the doctor felt. He said, we doctors, okay? Now, he's given the credentials. He's a psychiatrist. He's worked in this treatment center. He says, we realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology, and by the way, if you look up the word moral psychology, the term, it means a combination of psychology and philosophy. That's what it means, okay? Was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. In other words, he couldn't apply it. He didn't know how to apply it. And this is what he says about, and we were talking today, Dave was the one who was saying, you know, you think the minds of today are much better than those of 100 years ago? And we doubted it because, I mean, most people today haven't even ever read a book. They don't even know how to use a map. There's a thing, remember what a map? You guys know what a map is? It's something that they had before Google. So you start to find out how handicapped we are now. With all our ultra-modern standards, right, our scientific approach to everything, he said we, meaning us doctors, okay, us doctors, are not well equipped to apply the knowledge of good outside our synthetic knowledge. Now, what's interesting about this, the federal website, as I had read recently, and I've got the document somewhere. It says that last year, a little over 2.2 million people had gone through treatment in the United States. Less than 50,000 made it, even to a year. So I think that what Silkworth said in 1939 or 1935, when he made this statement, is as true today as it was then. Yet we look at Alcoholics Anonymous, we look at the success, and a lot of you guys with time know that Alcoholics Anonymous absolutely works. And that really is his endorsement. So again, he talks about many years ago, one of the leading contributors to this book, that's Bill Wilson. Again, he's reiterating all of that. And on the next paragraph down, starting with later, he says he requested the privilege to tell other patients here, and with some misgiving, we consented. In other words, Silkworth argued with Bill. He wasn't really excited about letting a patient come back in and talk to other patients. And we talked about this last night. The reason I'm talking about it again is because it's important. It is so important to revisit this idea that Bill Wilson had. Because if you're new here or you're thinking about working with other people, we are in a place now in Los Angeles, we have 3,000 meetings a week. There's no problem finding new people. They couldn't have made it easier for you. Maybe that's why the treatment industry is so big, because they're using our phone list out of our big meetings with 500 people. I'm not judging. I don't want to, maybe this shouldn't be on tape, but I've seen these guys. The guys running the treatment centers always want to be in charge of the phone list. And they're calling people up like a year later, oh, you're not sober anymore? Maybe we can help you. And it's wrong. It's not right. But because we have people coming here looking for a spiritual answer, and we have a spiritual answer, but there's no money in it. And this is what he says. He says,